You're sitting at your computer on a quiet Tuesday afternoon, maybe checking your email or reading the news online, when suddenly your screen freezes. You try moving your mouse, but nothing happens. Then, without warning, your entire screen fills with a bright red warning message. Giant letters scream at you. Critical security alert. Your computer has been locked. Sirens blare from your speakers, loud and urgent, making your heart jump. The message says your computer has been infected with dangerous viruses, that your personal information is being stolen right now, at this very moment, and that you must call the number on the screen immediately before it's too late. The number is displayed in huge white digits against that red background, impossible to miss, positioned exactly where your eyes naturally land when you panic. You try to close the window, but clicking the X does nothing. You try pressing Escape, but the warning stays locked on your screen. You try opening Task Manager, but every attempt fails. The siren keeps wailing. The message keeps flashing. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a small voice whispers that this might not be real, that something feels wrong. But the fear is louder than that whisper, because what if it is real? What if hackers really are stealing your bank information right now? What if you lose everything because you waited too long? So you reach for your phone and you dial that number, and that's the exact moment when you step into a trap that's been set for millions of people just like you. A trap so sophisticated and so convincing that even technology-savvy individuals fall for it every single day. Let me tell you something that's going to sound almost unbelievable, but is documented and verified by federal agencies, cybersecurity firms, and law enforcement across multiple countries. Last year alone, tech support scams resulted in losses exceeding $1.4 billion just in the United States. $1.4 billion. That's not counting unreported cases, which researchers estimate could double or even triple that number because so many victims feel too embarrassed or ashamed to report what happened. That money was stolen from ordinary people, from your neighbors, from grandmothers and grandfathers who just wanted to keep their computers safe, from middle-aged professionals who thought they were doing the responsible thing by addressing a security threat immediately. The scammers behind these operations aren't random individuals working alone in dark rooms. They're organized criminal enterprises, sometimes employing hundreds of people in sophisticated call centers, using advanced technology to create fake warnings that look absolutely identical to real security alerts from Microsoft, Apple, Google, and other major technology companies. They study human psychology, they understand exactly which fears to trigger, they know precisely how much pressure to apply, and they've refined their techniques over years of practice to the point where their success rate is terrifyingly high. Microsoft itself reports blocking over 4,000 suspicious tech support domains every single day, which means there are thousands of active scam operations running simultaneously right now, targeting victims across every time zone, speaking multiple languages, adapting their approach to different cultures and demographics. The reason these scams work so devastatingly well is because they exploit something fundamental about how most people relate to technology. For many individuals, especially those who didn't grow up with computers, technology feels mysterious and intimidating. You use your computer for important tasks like banking, communicating with family, managing your finances, storing irreplaceable photos and documents, but you don't fully understand how it works under the surface. When something goes wrong or appears to go wrong, that lack of understanding creates vulnerability. You know, computers can get viruses. You've heard stories about identity theft and hacked bank accounts and ransomware. You know these threats are real because they're constantly in the news. So when a warning appears on your screen telling you that your computer has been compromised, your brain doesn't automatically question whether the warning itself might be the threat. Instead, it responds exactly the way the scammers want it to respond, with fear and urgency, the two emotions that shut down critical thinking faster than anything else. The scammers amplify this fear with visual and audio elements designed to create maximum panic. The colors are aggressive, reds and blacks that signal danger. The language is alarming, Words like critical, infected, stolen, immediate action required. The sounds are jarring, sirens and beeping that trigger stress responses. Everything about the fake warning is calculated to push you past your natural skepticism and into a state where you'll do what you're told without questioning. Understanding how these scams actually begin is crucial, because recognition is your first line of defense. There are 3 primary ways these criminals make initial contact, and each approach uses different psychological tactics. The first and most common scenario is the fake security warning that appears while you're browsing the internet. You're on a perfectly legitimate website, maybe reading an article or checking sports scores, when suddenly a pop-up window takes over your entire screen. This isn't a normal pop-up that you can easily close. The scammers use malicious code embedded in compromised websites or hidden in online advertisements to force your browser into full-screen mode and display their fake warning. The warning looks remarkably authentic because they've copied the exact design, colors, fonts, and logos used by real companies. Microsoft's actual logo appears at the top. The warning message uses official-sounding language like error code, followed by a random string of numbers and letters that seem technical and legitimate. The phone number is prominently displayed, often with additional text saying something like "Call Microsoft certified technicians available 24 hours." Your browser appears completely frozen. You can't click anything. You can't switch windows. You can't even see your desktop. From your perspective, it genuinely looks like your computer has been taken over. What you don't realize is that it's just a web page, nothing more, using simple tricks to prevent you from closing it easily. But in that moment of panic, those technical details don't occur to you. You see the Microsoft logo, you see the dire warning, you see the phone number, and you believe you need to call it. The second scenario involves cold calls where scammers contact you directly by phone, claiming to be from Microsoft or Apple or another major technology company. The phone rings, you answer, and a voice that sounds professional and concerned tells you they're calling from the technical support department because they've detected unusual activity coming from your internet connection, or they've received error reports from your computer, or they've identified your device in a list of machines that have been compromised by a recent widespread cyber attack. They speak with authority and confidence, using technical terminology that sounds impressive even if it's mostly meaningless. They might say things like "Our monitoring systems flagged your IP address showing signs of malware infiltration," or "Our servers have been receiving corrupt data packets originating from your device." They know your name because they purchased it from data brokers or stolen databases. They might know your address or your phone number or what internet service provider you use, and this accurate information makes them seem legitimate because how else would they know these details unless they really were from Microsoft? What you don't know is that these pieces of information are easy to obtain and mean nothing about whether the caller is genuine. The scammers work from massive lists of potential victims, making hundreds or thousands of calls every day, knowing that even a small percentage of successful scams will generate enormous profits. The third approach is through fake emails that appear to come from legitimate companies, warning about subscription renewals, unusual account activity, or security breaches. The email looks perfect. The logo is correct, the formatting matches official communications, the sender address seems legitimate at first glance. The message says your Microsoft subscription is about to expire, and you'll be charged several $100s unless you call immediately to cancel. Or it claims suspicious activity was detected on your account, and you must verify your identity by calling the number provided. Or it warns that your computer's security license has expired, leaving you vulnerable to attacks. The email creates urgency and fear, pushing you to act quickly without examining the details carefully. If you call the number in the email, you'll reach the scammers who will then guide you through their scheme step by step, always maintaining the illusion that they're helping you when in reality they're stealing from you. Now let's talk about the specific warning signs that appear in virtually every tech support scam. The red flags that, once you know what to look for, make these frauds obvious. The first and most important red flag is the simple fact that will protect you from the overwhelming majority of these scams. Microsoft will never call you unsolicited. Neither will Apple. Neither will Google. Neither will Amazon. None of these major technology companies cold call customers to tell them about computer problems. They don't work that way. Their business model doesn't include proactive phone outreach for individual technical issues. If you're experiencing a genuine problem with a Microsoft product, you contact them. They don't contact you. This is universally true, with essentially zero exceptions. So if someone calls you claiming to be from Microsoft, you can hang up immediately with absolute confidence that it's a scam, regardless of how professional they sound, regardless of what information they claim to have, regardless of how urgent they say the situation is. Similarly, any pop-up warning that displays a phone number is automatically fake. Real security warnings from Windows Defender or legitimate antivirus software will never show you a phone number to call. They'll display their warning messages with options like quarantine this threat or run a scan, but they will never tell you to call a number for assistance. Any phone number in a security warning means scam, 100% of the time, no exceptions. The second major red flag is urgency combined with fear. Scammers always create artificial time pressure because they know that when people feel rushed and frightened, they make decisions without thinking carefully. The warnings use language designed to trigger panic. Your computer will be permanently disabled in the next hour unless you act now. Hackers are currently accessing your banking information. Your identity is being stolen as we speak. Law enforcement has been notified, and you could face legal consequences. All files will be deleted unless immediate action is taken. This kind of extreme urgency is a manipulation tactic, not a reflection of actual danger. Legitimate security issues rarely require split-second responses. If your computer really had a serious infection, taking an extra hour or day to research the proper response wouldn't make the situation catastrophically worse. Real antivirus companies, real technology support, they understand that users need time to think and verify information. Only scammers push you to act instantly before you can question what's happening. The third red flag is any request to install remote access software. This is how the scam typically progresses after you've called the number or answered their call. The fake technician will say they need to connect to your computer remotely to diagnose the problem, to remove the viruses, to fix the errors. They'll ask you to visit a website and download a program like TeamViewer, AnyDesk, LogMeIn, or similar remote access tools. These are legitimate programs used by real IT professionals, which is exactly why scammers love them, because they don't seem suspicious. Once you install this software and give the scammer the access code, they can see everything on your screen, control your mouse and keyboard, open your files, access your browser history, view your passwords if they're saved, and essentially operate your computer as if they were sitting in front of it. This is incredibly dangerous because it gives them complete access to your digital life. They can install actual malware that logs your keystrokes to capture passwords. They can access your online banking while you watch, making it seem like they're fixing something when they're actually stealing. They can copy documents and photos. They can plant ransomware that encrypts all your files. Never give remote access to someone who contacted you first. Only use remote access tools when you initiated the support request with a company you independently verified was legitimate. The fourth warning sign is requests for payment using unusual methods. After gaining your trust and possibly even your remote access, the scammer will explain that fixing your computer requires purchasing some kind of service or software license. They might say it costs a few $100s for a lifetime protection plan, or a one-time cleaning fee, or an annual subscription to their premium security service. But here's the critical part. They won't ask for a normal credit card payment processed through a standard website. Instead, they'll request payment through gift cards, specifically iTunes cards, Google Play cards, Amazon gift cards, or similar. They'll tell you to go to a store, purchase several gift cards worth a few $100s each, then call them back and read off the card numbers and PINs. This is a massive red flag because legitimate companies never accept gift cards as payment for technical services. Never. The reason scammers love gift cards is because they're essentially untraceable cash that can be immediately redeemed and converted before the victim realizes they've been scammed. Once you give those card numbers, the money is gone forever, impossible to recover or track. Some scammers also request wire transfers, cryptocurrency payments, or direct bank account access, all of which are red flags for the same reason. These payment methods are difficult or impossible to reverse. The fifth red flag involves manufactured evidence of infection. If you do give the scammer remote access, they'll often take you on a tour of your computer to prove you have serious problems. They'll open something called Event Viewer, a Windows utility that logs system events, errors, and warnings. To someone unfamiliar with computers, Event Viewer looks terrifying because it shows hundreds or thousands of error messages, many marked with red warning symbols. The scammer will say, "Look at all these errors, look at all these infections, your computer is in critical condition." What they don't tell you is that Event Viewer always shows errors on every computer. It logs routine issues that the operating system handles automatically, harmless warnings that mean nothing dangerous, and standard events that have nothing to do with malware. A completely healthy computer will show dozens of errors in Event Viewer. It's like checking the engine diagnostics in your car and freaking out because there are codes logged from minor sensors adjusting themselves, things the car handled automatically without any actual problems. The scammer uses your lack of technical knowledge to make normal system processes look catastrophic. They might also run command prompt commands that display technical-looking text, or open Task Manager to show processes with complicated names, all while providing completely false explanations designed to frighten you into paying for their useless services. Let me share some real examples because abstract warnings don't convey the actual human cost and emotional devastation these scams cause. There's a woman named Margaret, 76 years old, living alone in a suburb of Phoenix, Arizona. She was checking her email one morning when a loud alarm started blaring from her computer and her screen filled with a red warning claiming her computer had been locked due to illegal activity and that personal information was being transmitted to foreign servers. The warning displayed a phone number for Microsoft Security. Margaret, who had always been careful about computer security, believed the warning was genuine because it looked so official and because she couldn't close it no matter what she tried. She called the number. The man who answered had an accent but spoke clearly and professionally. He confirmed her name and address, which made her trust him more. He explained that her computer had been compromised by hackers and that they needed to act quickly. He guided her through installing TeamViewer and took control of her computer. He showed her the event viewer filled with what he claimed were virus infections. He said cleaning the system would cost $350 and must be paid immediately to prevent the hackers from stealing her identity. Margaret drove to Target, purchased gift cards as instructed, and called back with the numbers. After she gave him the codes, he said he needed additional payment for a protective firewall. Confused and frightened, she purchased more cards. By the time the scam ended 3 hours later, Margaret had given away $1,200 in gift cards. But the financial loss wasn't even the worst part. Because she'd given the scammer remote access, he had installed keylogging software that captured everything she typed for the next 2 weeks, including passwords for her bank accounts. Her checking account was emptied of another $8,600 before she realized what happened. She spent 6 months fighting with her bank to recover the stolen money, had to close, and reopen all her accounts, change every password she'd ever used, and deal with the psychological trauma of feeling stupid and violated. She told her daughter she felt ashamed for falling for the scam, that she couldn't understand how she'd been so foolish. Consider another case, a man named Robert, 58 years old, who worked in sales and considered himself reasonably knowledgeable about technology. He received a phone call one evening from someone claiming to be with Windows technical support. The caller said their systems had detected that Robert's computer was sending spam emails without his knowledge, a sign that it had been compromised by malware. Robert was skeptical at first, but the caller knew his full name, his address, even the internet service provider he used. The caller explained that hackers had been using his computer as part of a botnet for sending spam, and that if he did not clean his system, his internet service could be terminated and he might face legal issues for the spam being sent from his account. This frightened Robert because he ran his sales business from home, and losing internet access would devastate his income. The caller sounded like a professional IT person, using terms like IP address and DNS servers and distributed denial of service attacks. Robert allowed the caller to guide him through installing remote access software. The fake technician showed him files and processes that he claimed were malware offered to clean the system for $500, which would be much cheaper than dealing with the legal consequences or having to buy a new computer. Robert paid with his credit card over the phone. The technician claimed everything was fixed and told Robert to restart his computer. But over the next week, Robert started noticing strange charges on his credit card. Small purchases at first, then larger ones. Someone had used his card information to buy thousands of dollars worth of goods online. Additionally, ransomware had been installed on his computer during the remote access session. And a week after the call, a message appeared demanding $2,000 in Bitcoin to unlock his files. Robert lost the credit card charges, couldn't recover his encrypted files even after paying the ransom, and had to completely reinstall his operating system, losing years of business records and client information that he hadn't backed up. What makes these stories particularly heartbreaking is that neither Margaret nor Robert did anything unreasonable given what they knew at the time. They weren't careless or stupid. They responded rationally to situations that appeared legitimate. Margaret saw an official-looking warning and called the number displayed, thinking she was protecting herself. Robert received a call from someone who seemed knowledgeable and authoritative, who had accurate information about him and who explained a plausible scenario. They were being good citizens, responsible computer users, trying to address what appeared to be genuine security threats. That's exactly what the scammers count on. The entire design of these frauds is to exploit trust, create urgency that bypasses critical thinking, and leverage the victim's lack of technical expertise to make lies sound believable. Understanding this is crucial because it means anyone can fall for these scams if they don't know the specific tactics being used and the warning signs to watch for. It's not about intelligence or education. It's about information. Once you know that Microsoft never calls you, that pop-ups never show legitimate phone numbers, that gift cards are never appropriate payment for technical services, you're protected against these specific scams regardless of how convincing they appear. Now that you understand how these scams work and what warning signs to watch for, let's talk about exactly what you should do when you encounter one of these fake warnings or receive one of these fraudulent calls. Having a clear action plan that you can follow even when you're feeling stressed or uncertain is your best protection. The first scenario we need to address is what to do if you see a fake pop-up warning on your screen. You're browsing the internet when suddenly your screen fills with that red warning, the sirens start blaring, and a phone number demands you call immediately. Here's what you do, step by step, and these steps work even if you're not particularly comfortable with technology. First, do not call the phone number displayed on the screen. That number connects directly to the scammers, not to any legitimate company. Second, do not click anything within the pop-up window. Don't click OK, don't click the X to close it. Don't click any buttons or links. The pop-up is designed to trap you no matter what you click. Instead, you're going to force your browser to close using your keyboard. On a Windows computer, press the Escape key on your keyboard. This key is usually in the top left corner, labeled ASC. Press it once and see if the pop-up disappears. If that doesn't work, press Alt plus F4 together, which is a Windows command to close the active window. If that still doesn't work, you're going to use what's called Task Manager. Press Ctrl, Alt, and Delete all at the same time. This will open a menu. Select Task Manager from that menu. Task Manager shows you all the programs currently running. Look for your web browser in the list. It might be called Chrome, Firefox, Edge, or Safari. click on it once to highlight it, then click the button that says End Task. This will force your browser to close completely, pop-up and all. If you're using a Mac, press Command, Option, and Escape together to open Force Quit. Select your browser from the list and click Force Quit. After you've closed your browser this way, wait a moment, then restart your computer to be safe. When your computer comes back on, open your browser fresh. Most importantly, do not click to restore your previous session if your browser asks. That would bring the fake pop-up right back. Start fresh with a new tab. The next thing you should do after closing that pop-up is clear your browser's cache and history. This prevents the fake warning from appearing again the next time you open your browser. In Chrome, click the three dots in the top right corner. Go to Settings, then Privacy and Security, then Clear Browsing Data. Select Cached Images and Files and click Clear Data. In Firefox, click the three lines in the top right, go to Settings, Privacy and Security, scroll down to Cookies and Site Data, and click Clear Data. In Safari on Mac, go to Safari menu, Preferences, Privacy, and click Manage Website Data, then remove all. These steps ensure the malicious code creating that pop-up is completely cleared from your browser. After you've done this, your browser is clean and safe to use normally again. The key thing to remember is that the pop-up itself, despite how scary it looked, didn't actually infect your computer with anything. It was just a malicious web page using tricks to appear more dangerous than it was. By closing the browser and clearing your cache, you've eliminated the problem entirely. If you receive one of those cold calls where someone claims to be from Microsoft or Apple technical support, your response should be even simpler. The moment they tell you why they're calling, you say something like, "Thank you, but I'm not interested," and you hang up immediately. You don't owe them an explanation. You don't need to engage in conversation or argue about whether they're legitimate. You simply end the call. If they call back, don't answer. If they keep calling repeatedly, consider blocking the number through your phone's settings or by contacting your phone carrier about blocking unwanted calls. Some people worry that maybe it could be legitimate, that maybe Microsoft really did detect a problem. Let me remove that doubt completely. Microsoft does not call people. Neither does Apple. Neither does Google. If someone calls claiming to be from any of these companies regarding a computer problem, it's a scam 100% of the time, with absolutely zero exceptions. You can hang up with complete confidence that you're not missing any important information or ignoring a real security threat. Now, let's talk about the more serious situation. What you should do if you already gave the scammers remote access to your computer, or if you already paid them money, or if you gave them personal information before you realized it was a scam. Time is critical in these scenarios, so let me walk you through the immediate steps. If you gave someone remote access and they're still connected to your computer, the absolute first thing you must do is disconnect from the internet immediately. If you have a physical Ethernet cable plugged into your computer, pull it out right now. If you're on Wi-Fi, turn off your Wi-Fi by clicking the network icon and selecting Disconnect, or physically turn off your router by unplugging it. This severs the scammer's connection to your computer instantly. Once you've disconnected from the internet, turn off your computer completely. Don't restart it, turn it off. Unplug it if it's a desktop. Remove the battery if it's a laptop, and you can do so. The computer needs to be completely powered down. This ensures that any connection the scammer had is permanently terminated and they can't regain access. The next step, and this is crucial, is to change all your passwords. But you need to do this from a different device that the scammer never had access to. Use your phone, a tablet, a different computer, anything that wasn't compromised. Start with your email password because email is the gateway to resetting every other account. Then change your banking passwords, your social media passwords, any shopping sites, any accounts that contain personal information or payment methods. Make these new passwords strong, at least 12 characters long, using a mix of uppercase and lowercase letters, numbers, and symbols. Don't reuse old passwords. Don't use the same password for multiple accounts. If keeping track of multiple passwords seems overwhelming, write them down on paper and keep that paper in a secure location in your home. Writing passwords on paper is actually safer than storing them digitally if you're concerned about having been hacked. After you've changed your passwords from a clean device, contact your bank immediately. Call the customer service number printed on the back of your debit or credit card. Or look up the bank's official number from their website that you type in manually. Don't use a number the scammer might have given you. Explain what happened. Tell them you gave remote access to someone you now believe was a scammer and that your banking information may have been compromised. Ask them to monitor your accounts for suspicious activity and consider requesting new card numbers for all your cards. Most banks can freeze your existing cards and issue new ones within days. Yes, this is inconvenient, but it's far better than discovering unauthorized charges weeks from now when it's harder to dispute them. If you paid the scammers using a credit card, contact your credit card company immediately and dispute the charges. Explain that you were the victim of a tech support scam. Credit card companies are familiar with these frauds and often side with the cardholder in disputes. You have a reasonable chance of getting that money back if you act quickly. If you paid using a debit card, the process is more complicated and you're less likely to recover the money, but you should still report it to your bank immediately. If you paid using gift cards, unfortunately the money is almost certainly gone. Gift cards are like cash once the codes are redeemed, and scammers redeem them within minutes. You can try contacting the gift card company. For example, if they were iTunes cards, you could contact Apple through their official website and report the fraud. But recovery is unlikely. Still, reporting it creates a paper trail and helps authorities track these criminal operations. If you sent money via wire transfer, contact your bank immediately. Sometimes wire transfers can be stopped or reversed if you catch them quickly enough, within hours or maybe a day, but after that, the money is gone. If you paid in cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, the money is irreversibly gone. There's no way to reverse or refund cryptocurrency transactions. After you've secured your accounts and contacted your financial institutions, you need to address the compromised computer itself. This computer potentially has malware, keyloggers, or other malicious software installed by the scammer during their remote access session. You have two options, and which one you choose depends on your comfort level with technology and how much you value the data currently on the computer. Option 1 is to have a trusted computer professional thoroughly scan and clean your computer. This could be a local computer repair shop, a tech-savvy family member or friend you trust completely, or a legitimate service from a major retailer like Best Buy's Geek Squad if you can visit their physical store location. Make sure you're dealing with people you can verify are legitimate, not someone who contacts you offering to help. Option 2, which is more drastic but also more certain, is to completely wipe your computer and reinstall the operating system from scratch. This removes absolutely everything, including any malware the scammer installed, but it also removes all your files, photos, documents, and programs. If you have important files, you would need to back them up first, but only backup files like photos and documents. Don't back up any programs or applications as those could contain the malware. After reinstalling the operating system, you start fresh with a clean computer and reinstall only the programs you need from their official sources. One critical step that many people forget is to document everything that happened. Write down the timeline of events while it's still fresh in your memory. What day and time did the pop-up appear or the call come in? What did the warning say? What phone number was displayed? What names did the scammers use? What remote access software did they have you install? How much money did you pay and what payment method? What information did you give them? This documentation is important for several reasons. First, if you're disputing charges with your bank or credit card, having detailed records strengthens your case. Second, if you file a police report, which you should consider doing, especially if you lost significant money, detailed information helps law enforcement. Third, this information can be reported to consumer protection agencies that track these scams and work to shut down the operations. You can report tech support scams to organizations like the Federal Trade Commission through their online complaint system, which you can find by searching for FTC Complaint Assistant on a clean device and typing in the official government website address manually. These reports help authorities identify patterns, track criminal organizations, and warn other potential victims. For ongoing protection moving forward, there are practical steps you can take to significantly reduce your risk of encountering these scams again. First, make sure you're using a modern web browser that's kept up to date. Chrome, Firefox, Edge, and Safari all have built-in pop-up blockers and security features that catch many of these fake warnings before they ever reach your screen. Make sure pop-up blocking is enabled in your browser settings. Second, consider installing an ad blocker extension. Malicious pop-ups often spread through compromised advertising networks, and blocking ads blocks that infection vector. Extensions like uBlock Origin for Chrome or Firefox are free and effective. Third, be extremely cautious about what websites you visit and what you download. These fake warnings often appear on sketchy websites offering pirated software, illegal streaming, or other questionable content. Stick to well-known, reputable websites whenever possible. Fourth, keep your operating system and all your software updated. Windows Update, Mac Software Update, these aren't just annoying interruptions. They patch security vulnerabilities that scammers exploit. Enable automatic updates if you can. Perhaps most importantly, trust your instincts when something feels wrong. If a pop-up appears and your gut tells you something isn't right, that instinct is usually correct. If a phone call makes you uncomfortable or the caller is pushing you to act immediately without time to think, that discomfort is your brain recognizing manipulation tactics. You have permission to hang up on anyone, to close any window, to say no to anything that makes you feel pressured or uncertain. Legitimate companies understand that customers need time to verify information and make informed decisions. Only scammers try to rush you into actions you're not comfortable with. Share what you've learned with family and friends, especially those who might be vulnerable to these scams. Older parents and grandparents who didn't grow up with computers are prime targets, not because they're foolish, but because the technology is less familiar to them. Have a conversation where you explain the simple rule. Microsoft, Apple, and Google never call you about computer problems, and pop-ups never show legitimate phone numbers to call. These two facts alone protect against the vast majority of tech support scams. Finally, remember that falling for one of these scams doesn't make you stupid or gullible. These are sophisticated criminal operations designed by people who study psychology and human behavior, who test their methods on thousands of victims until they find what works most effectively. Anyone can fall for these scams given the right circumstances and the right pressure. What matters is not whether you initially believed the fake warning or answered the scammer's call, but what you do next. If you catch it early and take the protective steps we've discussed, you can minimize or eliminate the damage. If you've already been victimized, taking immediate action to secure your accounts, document what happened, and report the crime helps protect others and potentially aids in bringing these criminals to justice. The shame and embarrassment many victims feel is misplaced. That emotional burden belongs entirely on the criminals who exploit trust and fear for profit, not on the decent people who were simply trying to keep their computers secure and their information safe.